Which of the following, if true, most seriously weakens the argument to the left? What is the argument? That the Army assigned a higher priority to safety than to cheap equipment costs. The evidence for this is that, generally more secure armors are more expensive, but this year the armor selling best to the Army, Halliburton's Chainmail 1200, is also the safest one. Therefore, that is evidence that the Army assigned a higher priority to safety than to cheap equipment costs. So the assumption here is that the choice of this particular product was due to a change in priorities. So to weaken it, we would attack that assumption. We could say, well, maybe their priorities haven't changed after all. Let's look for that in the answer choices. A, the armor that sold best last year was not the safest available. Well, that's an inference we could draw from the passage, but this is a weakened question, not an inference question. B, no Army department has intentionally leaked the information that it was making safer armors a higher priority this year. Well, whether they intentionally leaked it or whatever, that's not relevant. We need to weaken the claim that they changed their priorities. C, this year's high armor prices topped those of the last 2 years when the best armors saw weak sales. Well, relative prices are not a factor. We're looking at the change in the Army's priorities. D, due to the increase in raw materials cost, all types of armors cost more to produce this year than in any past year. This affects all armors and doesn't affect priorities at all. So E, of course, is the last one. It must be the right answer. Why is it right? Due to technological innovations as a result of massive profits, the safest armor available this year cost less than most others currently sold. So this basically said, we already knew that the U.S. Army minimized body armor to keep wartime equipment costs to the minimum. So this one says that the best armor also happens to be among the cheapest. So that undercuts the conclusion that the Army changed its priorities to safety rather than cheap equipment costs. They could simply have said, hey, this one is the best one of the cheap ones, let's go with that, without changing their priorities to safety from cost. So choice E definitely weakens the argument to the left.